Over the past 3 years, I've produced over 5,000 UGC ads for more than 100 D2C brands. And in that time, we've built up a database of more than 3,000 UGC creators for our eCom clients. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact methods we use to find, hire, and retain the best UGC creators for our ads. So let's quickly go over the agenda for this video. Before we get into the exact methods that we use to hire and retain creators, first I want to talk about some UGC Creator Red Flags. As becoming a UGC creator has become such a big thing online, and a lot of people are using it, frankly, as a side hustle. There's a few key things that we've found that we need to watch out for when it comes to working with creators, and that have helped us build our database to have high quality creators in over the past 3 years. The first one is that they try to negotiate usage rights. If anybody ever tries to negotiate usage rights for their content, they usually are not going to be the best quality, and they're usually not going to be the best type of creator to deal with, because that just spells difficulty. They're not creating movies, they're not creating art, so to speak. This is just UGC, and so usage rights really in all cases need to be unlimited, if I'm honest, because they need to be used across multiple channels, multiple formats, which actually goes into the next point that I'm going to raise as a red flag, which is they want to be paid extra or negotiate extra for handing over the raw files to you. If somebody's creating content for your brand, it's really important that you get the raw files, because that will allow you to then use that content in the future, whether it comes to key sales periods, whether it comes to repurposing that content, making mashups, making compilations. It makes it a lot easier so that you can then build this bank of footage where you basically have every single way that your product can be captured on camera in some kind of video clip, and then you can utilize that in your ads and your editing moving forward and for your creative strategy. The third one is that they won't sign a contract. Now, while we don't use the contracts necessarily as a legally enforceable thing, it's more like an agreement of both parties' deliverables, so to speak. And so within our contracts, personally, we have penalties, because we have found working with UGC creators in the past 2 years that there's a lot of people out there who will steal your products, not deliver the content on time, or just be very difficult to deal with. And so we always use contracts in our negotiations with creators, because it then protects us. It makes sure we get our content on time, particularly in an agency context where we're working to turnaround times. One of the biggest drains for us as an agency in terms of our turnaround time and making things difficult between us and clients has been when creators take long to deliver content, because then we have to go ahead and source another creator. We have to go through the entire process of shipping them the product, and it just becomes a nightmare. So for us, we use penalties, whereby basically after a certain amount of time, once they have received the product, if we don't receive the footage, a 50% penalty is applied to whatever they were supposed to be paid. And after that, every single day, we apply an additional 10%. Whoever makes it to the end of that and basically ends up at zero, we blacklist and we never work with them again, because again, we want people that are reliable and will deliver high quality content in a timely fashion. And the last red flag is slow communications. Again, creating performance content, UGC, Facebook ads, it's a very fast paced environment. And so content needs to be turned around quickly. People need to be making changes when they are requested, and not 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later. This is when it comes down to revisions, and it comes down to the actual submission of the raw files in the beginning. If they are slow in getting back to you, is a big red flag that you should not work with that person in the future, and replace them. So now let's get into the first method that we use. This is probably the highest quality and most consistency that I've found to actually source creators on a relatively automatic autopilot, because there's very little involvement needed from you when it comes to constant checks or follow-ups, particularly if you have a team and you have somebody who you can hire as to be a talent manager, or you can hire somebody, just a simple VA, to be honest, to do this for you. So now let's get into the first method that we use to find and hire creators for our brands. It's a platform called Backstage. It's previously been used mostly as a casting platform for commercials, even Hollywood stuff, and like feature films and movies and these kind of things. But over the past year or so, I've noticed a massive increase in the number of UGC creators and people who create content for social media offering their services on there. And this is probably the highest quality and most consistency that we've found in terms of finding creators that are the right fit for the different types of clients that we work with, that suit different customer avatars, and that are able to make content for our brands. Backstage is also probably one of the best, because it makes it easy to post jobs on there. It's more like a pull mechanism as opposed to a push mechanism, because there's less manual work involved. The idea behind Backstage is a marketplace of these types of creative jobs. And so you post your job, fill out their simple form, pay a fee of, I think it's like $14 or something, and then your job is available to be viewed and people can apply. And it's obviously important that in your job application, you put the need for submission of some kind of reference material, so that you can see the type of work that these persons have done in the past, so that you can then decide if they are the best fit. Another cool thing about Backstage is once you like somebody, you can create a yes list and a no list, and then you can go through and manually message all of the people on your yes list and discard all of the ones that you've put on the no list. Again, this is a job that should be done by either a VA or a talent manager, somebody who has a proven SOP and a system that they follow for reaching out to these creators, whereby they can reach out to them within one message, quickly let them know that this is something that you guys are interested in terms of hiring them, and this is going to be the rate and what the next steps are. What the next steps are and the actual process of taking things, so to speak, off Backstage or off of these platforms to actually onboarding creators and retaining them and making sure that you're able to work with them on a consistent basis. We'll get into in a second when I talk about my UGC hiring funnel. But first, let's go into the next method that we use. It's a platform that I'm not too sure many brands are familiar with. Creator Marketplace by TikTok themselves. So UGC creators or just influencers can create profiles on this Creator Marketplace, and they can sign up to be in an arrangement where they are able to be paid for the content that they produce for brands. And again, this has both a push and a pull function when it comes to sourcing creators, because not only are you able to post jobs on there and get people to come to you, you can also then go ahead and actually manually reach out to people through the platform. It has tons of different ways that you can structure your engagements with people. So it's entirely dependent on the type of content that you want to make. You can also go for things like whitelisting access, Spark ads if you're running TikTok ads. And it's a really good way to find a large number of creators in specific niches or specific demographics. For example, if you're launching your brand in a new country where you have a different demographic and a different language, you can very easily go ahead and filter on their system to find creators in that specific country who will create content in that language, and it will make it a lot easier for you in that translation and localization process for your brand. TikTok Creator Marketplace, however, is very difficult to navigate when it comes to taking things off of TikTok and retaining people. For us, we like to do things off of all of these platforms. We want to have the person's information, their details, so that we can communicate with them very easily and not rely on third-party platforms where typically the creators are probably going to have a lot of messages. You'll probably have a lot of messages. Your communication will get pushed to the bottom of the pile. It will create unnecessary open loops for everyone, and it just makes communication difficult. Versus if you have access to them via other channels that are off of these platforms, which I'll talk about when I bring you onto the hiring funnel, then it becomes a little bit more easier to nurture these relationships over time, particularly with the creators whose ads do well, and continue working with them long term. And then the last method we have is a very, very manual method, kind of the old school way. And it's basically manual outreach. We do this across 3 different platforms. Now, the same creators that you reached out to on TikTok Creator Marketplace, or that you added to your shortlists, or that applied to your job on TikTok Creator Marketplace, you can then actually manually reach out to through TikTok DMs if you have a profile. And what's cool about that is if you go to someone's TikTok profile, majority of the time they will have their Instagram profile tagged or linked through the integration between TikTok and Instagram. As you can go to the Instagram account and DM them there as well. And then the last step of this, which is probably the most effective for us, is majority of the time if somebody's serious about creating content online, wants to actually be paid for it and take it seriously, then they will have their email somewhere in their bio, either on TikTok or on Instagram. And what we do is we have a VA go ahead and scrape their information, put together an entire list based on a specific niche or a specific demographic of creator that we're trying to reach out to. And then we will use a cold email tool like Instantly, Lemlist, Smart Lead, any of those will do, to create custom targeted campaigns for these leads based on the niche that they are in, the product that we're reaching out for them to promote. And so we can create automated sequences. Usually our sequences are literally just 2 messages. The first one is like a, hey, we like your content. This is our product. We want you to create content for our brand. This is what we're offering. And here's the next steps. And then the next one is just a follow-up bump. Majority of the time you'll get a response to the first one though. It's very rare that somebody has to be followed up with, because a lot of these creators are very eager to be paid for the content that they make. And so it's a very effective method, although it is a lot more manual, particularly with the inbox management on the back end, making sure that you manage replies. A lot of people might try and negotiate in the replies, versus with Backstage, you kind of don't have that problem because you put your rates out there up front and people will apply if they want to work for that rate or not. It's super simple. So now let's talk about the hiring funnel. You have these kind of 3 methods of acquisition: Backstage, TikTok Creator Marketplace, outbound DM and email across Instagram, TikTok, and email. The key with this system to make it function is having one mechanism that filters all of these leads through all of these platforms and acts as a qualifier for the low quality versus the high quality creators. Obviously, first they need to pass the eye test. So when you're creating your yes list on Backstage, for example, and you look at their profile, generally you obviously only want to reach out to creators who maybe they've made content for a big brand in the past, a competitor of yours, for example. That's a good kind of proof of concept and gives you enough information you need to reach out to them. But then the second stage in the process, this filtering mechanism, is the form. So you can use any form builder pretty much. I use Typeform. You can use others, Google Forms if you want a free solution. And basically this form acts as the filtering mechanism for all of the creators that come through these platforms. And remember, your goal is not to continuously communicate with the creators on those platforms, because like I said, managing all of those platforms, all of those inboxes, it becomes a headache. It's hard to keep track of. So ideally you want to take them off of those platforms as soon as possible and build a relationship with them outside of that. So when you have your form, you basically get all of their information: first name, last name, email address, phone number, niches that they've created content for in the past, brands that they've created content for in the past, their kind of age range, demographic, gender, and then also you ask for their shipping address up front. The reason why you ask for this is because when you want to then later on work with them, you can just simply send them a message. There's no need for an additional exchange of address. You already have it on your system and you can simply ship your products out to them and then get them to work on start creating the content. The data from this form needs to then be funneled into a database that you can use to then keep track of all of your creators, create filtering within your creators, and so you understand who's for what brand, who's for what niche, who's for what demographic, so that you can easily find people. You can organize this in Notion, Basecamp, even Monday or ClickUp, as long as you have the necessary automations in place. And basically we just use a simple zap from Zapier. We attach it from one side to the form, the other side to the database. We map all of the fields, and then the database gets built out. And then if you've collected the information correctly and you have their information in terms of the niches that they create content in, the demographic, if you ever launch a new brand in a specific different niche, or maybe you're an agency and you work with a client in a different niche, you can then very easily go through and filter your creator list to find the necessary creators that you can then have a look at again and decide if you want to work with them and who you want to choose for that specific project. From there, we move straight onto text message, because again, email, although it's a good acquisition source, it's not great for long-term relationships because emails get lost. They're very difficult to manage. You're getting a lot of emails in that inbox anyway, particularly if you're reaching out to new people all the time. Same with the other platforms. So we move everything onto either text message or WhatsApp, depending on what's more popular where you're based. And we basically then reach out to them, or have someone on our team reach out to them and let them know that they've been shortlisted for the engagement with our brand or our client's brand. We then go ahead and send them the next steps. And basically the next steps are, we're going to evaluate your profile. We've shortlisted you. We'll reach back out when we have the scripts ready. Then once you have your scripts ready, you send them over the scripts, you send them over the contract. They sign the contract, you then ship the product out to them. It's very important that you don't ship the product out to them before they sign the contract, because they're not technically committed to working with you, and so you just don't want to waste product for no reason, and you don't want people pretending like they're going to work with you and then not delivering the footage, because ultimately it's not even about the product. It just costs you so much time getting this content, particularly with shipping products out. Depending on your shipping times, could take 2 days, could take 10 days, and then the turnaround time for them to actually film and send you back the content. When you want to move fast, when you want to capitalize on a new trend, that just becomes difficult. Now lastly, I'm going to touch on how you can actually keep creators so that you don't have to consistently hire new ones, although I would recommend consistently hiring new creators and having this as like an always on activity, because new faces representing the brand allows you to tap into new demographics, allows you to tap into different pain points, different body types, and resonate with new audiences. And so it makes your life a lot easier to have a consistent pipeline of creators coming in. Even if you don't want to use them, you can just kind of put them on the bench while you're working with your existing creators. But when you do have creators that perform very well, it's very important that you double down on your relationship with them. What we've seen be successful over time is keeping them posted on the actual performance of their ads. Obviously this can kind of be a double-edged sword, because some people might ask for more money depending on how well the ads have done. And then the second one is potentially putting them on retainer. If you have somebody who just, kills it out the gate, their ads perform, every single ad they make for your brand performs, you might want to put them on a retainer and turn them into an in-house creator, having them creating content for you on more of like a full-time basis, so that you can then have a consistent pipeline of content coming in from them. After going through thousands of applications and working with thousands of creators, this is by far the best method that we have found to find, hire, and retain high quality creator talent, so that we can consistently pump out new UGC ads every single month for the diverse partners that we work with at my agency, considering they all have probably different customer avatars, different body types. And so it's important that we have a wide enough range. Obviously for your brand, maybe at the brand level, you can just localize this and you won't need as many, but this system nonetheless will make your life a lot easier when reaching out and then actually working with these creators. When it comes to working with creators, there's a lot more that I haven't been able to dive into in this video. So if you want the full picture of the system that I've used across 100 different brands to build a relentless pipeline of winning ad creatives into their business, doesn't matter what niche you're in, what kind of offer you sell. Obviously our expertise is in eCom, but if you're running ads on Facebook, it will definitely be valuable to you. Just click the link in the description right now, and if you go over there's a video on that page explaining exactly what's inside my full A to Z course, where you get all of my resources, templates, SOPs, and systems that I use inside my agency and for my clients. And you can copy and paste them into your business if you decide to join me inside the course. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because I'll be posting a lot more content about what we do inside our business, both inside our eCom stores and inside our agency. And I'll see you in the